Alex.
Yeah?
What do you call a pile of kittens?
What?
A meowton.
Come on, Dad.
Meowton!
Terrible. That is terrible. What new joke?
New jokes. You guys tell me a joke.
The dog's always in a push-up position. Mitch Hedberg, search him up.
Mitch Hedberg, who's that?
Comedian that's actually good.
Oh, the bus is here. Bye, Dad.
Bye, boys.
Welcome to The Night Before, a movie podcast where my husband and I talk about the movie we watched the night before. In this case, we watched 3 movies.
This is a triple feature.
I can't even believe it. We never do this. Well, we used to. We haven't done it in a long time. So we are going to be talking about 3 movies, probably in 2 parts.
Yes, this is part 1. We've already decided this is going to be a 2-parter. The night before.
So we had a kind of do-nothing responsible day yesterday. And amongst other things, we watched 3 movies, which was a lot of fun.
Sorry, I was updating our Instagram.
That's okay. What's the Instagram?
Night Before Podcast.
At Night Before Podcast.
Yeah, I was putting some stories. When we're recording, we post our stories of where we're at, and I was taking some pictures during your intro.
So today, we usually go to a local place to enjoy a beverage of some sort. Today, this morning, early afternoon, we are enjoying some delicious coffee from Alert, which is in Tampa.
It shares its home with a brewery, Seven Sun Brewery, but in the mornings, it is a coffee shop. We like a lot. They have like little breakfast burrito fairs. So we had some breakfast burritos.
And some vegan pastry muffins.
That's
stuff.
right. We did. Blueberry and zucchini, I believe it was.
So the coffee's really good here.
So good.
It's a really good atmosphere as well. You can
Makes
sit inside
us-
or outside.
Yeah, we're inside though. We're sitting on a couch. It's
We
nice.
are.
It's not too crowded.
I almost feel like I'm at home right now.
Yeah, it's not too
We
crowded
come
this
here a
Sunday
lot,
morning.
though.
There's only a couple people here currently. But I'm sure it's going to fill up as we do this 2-parter
Another great
episode.
thing about this place is they always have pretty good music, no matter what it is. I mean, I don't know what this is, but it's relaxing and nice.
Well, it's nondescript, like
Yeah.
chill music. With
Chill morning coffee
It's
music.
not chill wave, but just relaxing, non-offensive, agreeable music for all.
Yes. So,
So on round 2 of our Alert Coffee, which means we're about ready to talk some movies. We did watch 3 movies yesterday mostly in the evening. It really didn't start till like 5 o'clock-ish, so it still counts as night before.
it does. Definitely. I mean, yeah, we didn't watch them throughout the day. We were actually out doing other things. But
Actually recording a night before podcast episode.
We were. But
At Bodega about the film Those Who Wish Me Dead.
Right. But we started around 5 and just watched the movies through dinner and just kept on going.
Into the night. So the way this 2-parter is, if you tell the descriptions, though we watched 3 movies, we're splitting into mainly 2 anchors here. This episode's going to primarily be about the killing of 2 lovers. Part 2 will be about The Woman in the Window, the Netflix streaming film. And those are the bulk of both conversations.
Right.
But we also watched a documentary on Hulu.
So we're going to mix in that
called Some Kind of Heaven.
as well.
And I guess, so what we'll probably do, we didn't really talk about this much beforehand. I say we just jump into the killing of 2 lovers.
I'm with you.
We'll see where we're at, and stay tuned for our thoughts on the Netflix documentary.
Some
No,
Kind
I'm
of
sorry.
Heaven.
The Hulu. It's on Hulu. It's not a Hulu documentary. It's just on Hulu.
It's on Hulu. Some Kind of Heaven.
Some Kind of Heaven about the retirement
community,
called in Central Florida called The Villages.
which is not too far from where we live.
It's a place of curiosity for us, but it's a home of over 130 plus thousand retirees.
Retirees, people that come, I would say a lot of it's people that come from up north.
Yeah. So there's a documentary on that on Hulu. We've been keeping our eye on it. So we'll talk about that either at the tail end of this episode, or it's going to kick off part 2. You're just going to have to stay tuned. That's
right.
That's our teaser for the episode. But first, there was a film that we both sort of stumbled upon that we wanted to see independently, but you were really championing it.
I did. I championed it. I was kind of following that it was at this cinema that we actually haven't been to, but will probably go to this summer.
A little small St.
It's
Pete.
called Greenlight Cinema.
Greenlight Cinema, yeah. Which they you don't know this, they threw a little mention at us about
They did.
our podcast.
Nice.
They want to hear this episode, they said.
Really?
So if you're listening, Greenpoint Cinema, here it is. It's ready
Here
for
it is.
you.
Well, I had noticed that they were playing it, and I read their kind of advertisement about it. And it was kind of on my radar to go see. But because we had our youngest this weekend, our youngest child at home, we decided not to go out. We decided to watch it staying
You can rent it. It's like a $5 or $6 rental.
Right. So we
VOD,
rented
video
it.
on demand.
And I was excited about it. So he was unaware that it was on my radar, but he was kind of thinking about it too. So it was
Yeah,
like,
two things got me. One, the title, Killing of Two Lovers. Intriguing.
intriguing.
It reminded me of another favorite film of ours. I said another. I don't know if Killing of Two Lovers is a favorite film of ours, but a film we both have watched and enjoyed, The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
The title,
The title, not the
reminded me
subject
of that.
matter, but the
Because the
title.
movie reminded me of just the focus of it reminded me more of like a Marriage Story or something.
Yeah,
like that.
maybe that vibe. Not quite all the arguing and yelling and screaming at
Right,
each
right,
other,
right.
but
But the vibe of just that focused piece of
yeah.
what it was portraying.
So I was intrigued by it, by the title, The Killing of Two Lovers. I've been popping up on like the Apple TV and the other movie streaming, rental things saying, hey, you might like this based on the things you watch. And then also because we run our Instagram and I follow like Neon Pictures and some of the distributors of this film. Neon is, I think, the main one. I was constantly getting little ads for this movie on Instagram. So though I'm sure they did not have a huge promotion budget for this movie at all.
It was an economical movie.
But to tell a movie that, and it's not a knock against it, not a lot of large cast and crew, probably not a lot of money put behind this.
No, at the end you said, "Are those the entire
I
credits?"
was watching the credits because we were curious, and we can talk about in a little bit where this movie was filmed.
which we looked up.
And we watched the credits, and they like flew by. It was
Yeah.
like 40 seconds, and credits were done. Not very many people on this thing, which is awesome. So, but in regards to that, the marketing they were using via social media was really, I think, reaching their intended audience. Now, does it reach beyond?
Social media, and then small independent theaters.
Yeah, are they going to reach beyond that target audience? Probably not. But
They should.
I think so.
I mean, it should be. I hope so.
So do you want to tell people why we can come back to this conversation? Because as we often do, the night before,
We make the decision.
we were talking about, should we watch Those Who Wish Me Dead, or should we watch The Killing of Two Lovers? Obviously, those keeping track of, we know that Those Who Wish Me Dead
One
got picked
Friday
first.
night.
And you also know our feelings on that movie after listening to that episode, if you have. But
My initial reaction was The Killing of Two Lovers.
you were pushing for it
I
the
was
first
pushing
night.
for it Friday night.
And I was like, I'm not feeling this tonight.
And so we watched the other. And then tonight,
Or
we had a
last
couple
night.
different ones. And he left it to me tonight. But we ended up watching pretty much all three that we wanted to watch, but we watched The Killing of Two Lovers,
Was
as you could
the
say.
highest priority. That was
the highest priority
the main
movie.
feature of the night.
Yeah.
Some Kind of Heaven and The Woman in the Window were the tag-alongs.
Yeah.
We're going to get to you if we can,
We don't fall asleep.
if we're not doing other things. So, no, but I also said, again, not a knock to this film. In some way, I talked a bit about it. I didn't want to see a film in that indie movie 4:3 ratio Friday night.
I said you're not feeling 4:3 ratio-ish,
Yeah, that's what I said.
which is strange. Really strange. I'm said nobody says that comment ever. Nobody says I'm not in 4:3 ratio mood.
And when the movie started
I mean, maybe
last
people
night,
do, but in my world up until now, 40 plus years, it's nobody has said that to me.
well, it's been a trend recently where filmmakers have returned to this style.
After your explanation, I do get it.
Yeah, and I don't think this is in true like 4:3 ratio, but it's in that ballpark. And even when it started, it popped on the title screen, and it had that like cool font, "The Killing of Two Lovers," almost like an old school
Book cover.
book cover
I loved it.
that you would see from the 50s or 60s,
font.
70s latest. And then they even put like the old school films, like it's just one title screen, and it put the copyright with the Roman numerals, MCMXX. You know what I mean?
Did we find out it was a film or was it a book?
I don't know. I didn't do.
I didn't do. I did some research, but I didn't do that research.
But that was my initial thing when it opened. I said, "See what I mean? It's in that ratio." They even have this title screen.
I'm always in. I'm gonna start saying that too. Now that I know the terminology, I'm always in the mood, a 4:3 ratio mood.
Well, I said too, even with the title screen and the ratio, I said, "Don't get me wrong." While we're sitting on the couch,
I know. I'm teasing.
I
I
said,
know
"Don't
what
get me
you're
wrong.
saying.
If I made a movie, this is the style and the direction I would go as well."
I would too.
It's just on a Friday night. Those who wish me dead. I was just looking for
I like to go out to the theater, big
Yeah.
screen,
widescreen, 4K,
experience.
Angelina Jolie, Forest Fires, Assassins. All turned to be a
We
letdown.
did it.
Turned out to be a letdown, but
We did.
that's what I was feeling in that moment. So anyway,
So Saturday night was the better movie night, let's
yeah,
say.
The Killing of Two Lovers.
So Killing of Two Lovers, let's get into it. You give the summary.
You want me to do it?
Yeah,
Or
you-
you?
yeah, and then I'll jump in.
Well, it's a basic
yeah,
premise. Husband and wife with 4 kids.
4.
They've been married since high school. Are in a separation period,
They're separated. They're trying to.
but they're working.
things
They're trying to
out.
work on things, date nights, meetings here, sharing. He's picking up the kids occasionally, but they're really staying with mom. And all this gets kind of told you within the first few minutes of the film, because I think this one we're not going to truly spoil
No,
the whole
no,
thing,
no.
and because I don't think there's not a lot of mystery in here. So if you watch it, it's really just kind of going
Although
along
things
for this
are
emotional journey.
surprising that happen.
Oh, there's definitely surprises. That's why I said I don't want to spoil things. But the husband and wife also have the agreement that they can explore and see other people during this time.
Right.
But you get the sense early on real quick that this is all the wife's pushing an idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, they have decided to try to work it out, but it seems from the very beginning that he's trying everything to make it work out. To me, this separation was her way out, that she didn't know how to get out, her first step out.
Yeah,
She was
he's
kind of over the marriage.
over the marriage, all that.
She's outgrown him,
Yeah.
kind of. Because
And-
they give, I think, hints to it that he's somewhat insecure about her. Like, she's, like, slightly more intelligent. It portrays her as being slightly more intelligent.
And he's just
than
kind of a
him.
hardworking guy who
Yeah.
does random jobs, labor,
Kind of living the same life as since he graduated from high school.
but they live in a very small town, rural area
Very small.
in which state?
Utah.
Utah.
Kanish, Utah is where it was filmed.
That was one thing we were watching the credits. They never say like what state or city, but they thank, because again, it's a very small feature. They thanked the individuals' houses. Like, oh,
Houses that
thanks
they
to.
use. And the town is so isolating, which adds to the feeling of the kind of claustrophobia of the town, like the no way out. You know, if you've ever lived in a small town, I know my mom could probably relate. I mean, a lot of people could relate. Working through something difficult in a small town, my mom, anybody, my stepmom, it's difficult to work through whatever your problem or trouble is without everyone in the town knowing what's going on. And there are not even a lot of people in the town, but I think they exaggerate that feeling by everywhere he goes, someone calls out his name. Hey, David.
David,
You know,
yeah.
hey, David. Hey, David. Everywhere he's going, he's like, hi, 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 you know. Or
Yeah,
every
he's
time
having
they're
trouble with
fighting in
his-
the street, people are watching, you know.
Or when he has a teenage daughter who's not taking the separation well at all, and whatever drama he has with her,
Right.
it's sort of like everybody sees it. Not that it's a ton of people in town, but like you said, because there's so few, everybody sees it.
Right.
And everybody kind of knows about David and Nikki, their situation, the husband and wife. But yeah, but it's
Everybody knows
clearly her
Her choice.
her choice, her push, and he is clinging on to the hope.
Doing everything he can to try to make
He's
it
just
work.
trying to appease her to give her the space and time, but then try to slowly work and win her back. But while in the meantime, she has moved on to another relationship.
Right. She's seeing a guy that they kind of let you know right away at the very beginning. Because the beginning scene really draws you in
Yeah.
right away.
Well, yeah, and so that's really the point of this movie. I mean, there is this part about them, are they going to work out the relationship or not? But it's really about him dealing with this separation and her moving on.
Well, it's his increasing anxiety towards losing his world.
But
Basically,
he's consumed by it
he's completely psychologically consumed by it.
on three fronts. One, just her, winning her back as best he can. Number two, keeping a connection with his kids,
Right.
whether it be his daughter or his three boys. Like his three boys, he's always, like he walks them to school. He goes to the house and walks them to school. Because he only lives,
I mean,
he lives
he's
like a block away at his dad's house.
Yeah, and he's portrayed as a very nurturing dad, like that connects with his kids and
More so than the mother. Only because they don't show you much of her nurturing side. You really don't know. They just,
they don't
because
show
the
you
movie's
much of
really
her
all from his
relationship,
perspective.
But the things that go on with the kids, she seems to be slightly more clueless than he is as far as how they're feeling emotionally about what's going on. Maybe because she's trying so hard to move on.
Well, if you
he's
think about
not.
it, and I didn't really think about it until just now, he's in every scene.
Yeah.
So the movie is all
His
from
point of view.
his perspective. So we don't fully know what she does with the kids behind closed doors,
So that
what she
could
talks
be
with them.
just his perspective of
Yeah.
her not
It's
understanding.
his struggle with
what's
this because
going
she confronts him at one point about, like, he knocks on the kid's window late at night to tell them some jokes because there's an ongoing bit that they like a deceased comedian named Mitch Hedberg. That's really funny. I like him too. But they like his jokes, and Dad like watches some of the Netflix specials and wants to come tell the kids the joke in the middle of the night.
on. It's a way to just again grasping onto the
Mm-hmm.
connection with the kids.
And the wife does confront him about that later, thinking like, "Hey, is this inappropriate? Should you be knocking on the window at 2 a.m.?" And that obviously boils into a fight about all that. But we don't see the breakfast table conversation she has with the kids. We only
just
see
see his side,
his side, but then
approaching
her
him.
response to it as well.
True. We don't see her perspective in the situation. I think without giving away too much, the biggest part that we see in her is just her trying between her boyfriend and her husband. She's she takes on the role of appeasing and placating everybody all the time.
She does that too. Like she goes on these.
Mothering her boyfriend almost and placating her husband. Like she just kind of bounces between the kids, the husband, and the boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, like she goes on the date night. But even the date night, she has her moments of like rolling her eyes, just kind of bored, like, why am I here? But then also moments where she smiles and laughs. But
she's not in it. You can tell, especially when you see the date night, she's not in it to try to work on things.
No,
really.
yeah. And she's in this like, oh, we're in the beginning of the end stages. Basically, the whole movie, her vibe is we're in the beginning of the end stages. How do we get through this beginning phase to get to the end?
To the end.
Where
yeah.
he's like, we're in a temporary hole. We're going to get out of this. We'll move on. But because of the mounting anxiety, and these are probably the most striking things about the film, because like you said, yeah, you kind of mentioned a little bit Marriage Story, and you see how anxiety and worry all that. Marriage Story, it's a movie I did not particularly love that much. I thought it was on point with some things, but I thought it was just like, I don't want to see people just yelling and screaming at each other for
Yeah, no, this isn't that.
2 hours.
Sure.
No, this is the movie isn't even an hour and a half. This movie's an hour and 24 minutes.
That's true.
Which I don't think it needed to be a second longer.
No.
Because it has slow parts. Every scene is an extended scene. Every scene
Again,
they sit.
This is how he feels. You can feel it.
Yeah.
The extended scenes give into his feeling of like this kind of like never ending.
Well, what I love about
phase.
it, there's a lot of long shots where it just sits there, and they might even they don't cut. They might pan a little bit, but like when they are playing in the park, he's playing with the park and the kids. They don't really cut much. He just has it sit there, and when things don't go well, they sit on it. They let the kind of argument happen.
What makes it feel so realistic?
It does. When they're riding in the truck with the boys, when he's riding with the truck, they have these sort of very organic, almost ad-lib conversations.
I love that, and I love especially those, like the little boy, younger boys.
Well, the two of the boys were brothers in real life.
Actually, I looked that up. All three of them are brothers.
Oh, they're different.
They're the filmmaker's sons.
Okay. Well, you could tell they, like I said, are they
that makes sense because their casual conversation with each other felt like they were just playing or having casual conversation. There was no script there.
Yeah, because you could tell they also weren't the best kid actors.
No. The teenage girl, I think, did phenomenal.
No, she did well. The three little boys,
they were not actors.
they were just self-conscious of the camera, you could tell.
Yeah.
But the three of their chemistry worked well because you could tell they would interrupt each other like real siblings would and cut each other off
really
in conversations. So that makes sense. I didn't know all three of them were brothers.
They're all three brothers, and actually I found out that because we were talking about how kind of economical, low budget maybe this film was, the father is the filmmaker's father.
Oh, David's father. The old man kind of that he's living with who's kind of
So
ill.
the three boys and the father are actually the filmmakers.
Okay, some family.
Real
No,
father and three boys.
it's definitely that vibe.
But I think the father did great. I mean, he seemed like an actor. But
No, he did, unless he's, yeah. They did
but-
well. No, I was going to say earlier a minute ago, and then we got off track a little bit. One of the more striking features I thought of this film, because it is, unlike, when we kind of got talked about Marriage Story, then we moved on. Unlike Marriage Story, that deals more the outward frustration people have in this situation and dealing and going to other people like lawyers and all that to deal with it. This is all about like the internal struggle.
Right. Yeah,
So we see that two ways in this film. One, visually, that the husband throughout the movie, and this is all throughout the trailer too, which is what makes it intriguing, he is carrying around a gun like the majority of this movie.
Which to me, in a small town like that, doesn't seem that abnormal. But I think, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical in any way, but
But he's not like waving it around.
no, he's not waving it around at all.
It's in
but
his glove box. It's in his pocket.
I think in a town such as that, very rural. That is not as uncommon as you might think.
Yeah. Well, at some point he does some target practicing.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, with a title like The Killing of Two Lovers and the fact that you see this husband who is just struggling to keep it together, but he's not like blowing up on people. He's not.
He suppresses his anger. I mean, he's very angry, and you can feel that, but he suppresses it, and he's not. He doesn't seem like an evil person in any way. Like
No.
he really is, even, for the most part, really careful and kind with her and
No, with her and then the kids, he's really
father.
thinking about what can he do to them.
and the teenage daughter.
Mm-hmm.
He's very thoughtful about the things he says to her, the conversations, and to not downplay the mom
And
or
so you
criticize
see
the mom.
you see the manifestation of this anger, the symbolism of it, with his. Like I said, he doesn't have a gun in every scene, but throughout the movie, this gun appears that is always within reach of him.
Yes.
And with a title like "The Killing of Two Lovers," it, as the viewer, it keeps you.
And the sound.
Well, that was my next part.
Right.
But the visual keeps you just as anxious, on edge as he is, because you're like, I know what this movie's called. I know what guns do. I know what's going to happen next.
And he's very comfortable. He does the target practice, and he.
Yeah. And that's how the movie even starts, with the gun stuff and him and the gun. And then the other part to show his inwardness, because how do you show someone's like internal struggle with this? Like you just said, the sound. Especially when he has his most frustrating moments. The sound is this series of like weird just pressure clicks. Like high tension, almost like.
It's like it's almost like a gun. But
Well, there's a
it's
mix
like
of two things, like the revolver.
A wheel, gear or something.
Yeah, like
engine.
tightening of
A
metal
gear.
wires or wood snapping. Just these sounds of tension.
These sounds of tension
Mixed
is
with-
the soundtrack of the whole movie.
Mixed
the
with
entire movie.
the revolving sound of a gun changing chambers on a revolver.
Right. Yeah.
There's never like gunshot sounds, but you can hear like a gun being cocked, like, and then.
Right. Yeah.
And that just happens very loudly in various points throughout the movie.
Yes. So it's just that increasing tension and anxiety, even though outwardly sometimes he's not showing that to the people around him, but you can feel it on the inside of him for sure, the entire movie.
Oh, yeah. And I prefer that so much more than just yelling and arguing.
Definitely.
Though
Yeah, there's a lot of, the movie's fairly quiet through most of it.
That's, very quiet.
It's just his internal thoughts.
The landscape of Utah is bare with mountains in the background. It's wintry weather.
It's cold.
There's snow on the ground, but it's not like snowing. So it's cold, it's barren. There's not much of a town. So the shots look great. It looks really beautiful. And I think the 4:3, that kind of more box ratio, helps this as well, because it is a very claustrophobic, tense film.
Yeah.
And to just see, even though the landscapes are nice, and would it look nice to be like Nomadland in a widescreen format?
The landscape seemed wide, even in the 4:3.
No, but
It's
I say
so
you have those
desolate.
moments. What you really want is the square of their face all the time in the screen, like especially
Did a
his
lot
face.
of close-up scenes, especially the part that he sings the song,
Oh yeah,
which I think was really good how they did it, because it could have been portrayed as like really cheesy at first. When it started, I thought, oh no, this is going to take away from the movie. This is going to be cheesy, because
Yeah.
I guess he used to be a singer, songwriter, musician. He's a failed musician, basically, right?
but like punk rock guy.
Right. So he
One of their date
during their
nights.
date night, he, has written or kind of sings a song without music accompanying it, and they never like pan off of his face the entire time. They never show her reaction to it at all, which I thought was really good because it worked. It wasn't cheesy or uncomfortable like I initially thought it could be. It
But
wasn't too much.
But it also doesn't
It
land and wins the hearts either.
No.
It has some vulnerability to it, but through the vulnerability, I think it just leads to more hurt and distance.
Yes. Yeah.
And the way he
It
does
really
it,
shows how desperate he is.
it's how desperate it is, and almost how immature he still is in understanding their relationship. That a 30-something-year-old man trying to win back his wife in the same way he probably wooed her in high school with writing a song for her and singing
Right. That
it.
shows the lack of growth and change in him.
Yes.
And it really like signified her growth and change past him. You know? Like but I did like that part. I was a little concerned when it first started. I was like, "Oh no, what is
Well, then,
this?"
like, is it gonna go to like a background pre-recorded music track
Right.
for a minute there? Because there was like weird tones in the background from just outside noise in the movie. I thought, oh no, are they gonna slowly put music behind them? But they didn't do any of that.
No.
And there's,
It
like
was
you
just
said,
him singing, and it was a real close-up of his face, and they never panned off his face.
and like
the
a side
entire
view from like
time.
over his shoulder.
So I liked that part, actually.
And he doesn't, out of nowhere, have an American Idol voice either.
Like Bradley Cooper or something.
That's the thing. You hear these people, and they're like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be like an average person," and then all of a sudden, I'm singing, and
Yeah.
I should have been in the top 5.
Yeah.
I'm going to Hollywood.
Right.
And it's like, nah, come on.
And I really liked him as an actor. We looked up what he had been in before, and I mean, he looks nothing like his normal self, and I think it worked. I know you mentioned some of his mannerisms and stuff would
No.
be, but I think it worked. I did find him good looking to be so scruffy, but I thought he was good looking as a scruffy person. He's not good looking to me as a clean cut person.
No, it took a minute. It took a minute to just kind
but
of
he's
for
not
me
overly good looking
get
to be
into
a
him.
small town guy.
because I just felt he just felt, I don't want to say too outgoing at first. There was just something about the personality that didn't quite match the look at first, but then you get to know him
You
as the
got
movie
used to
goes,
it.
and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
and I really liked his performance. Crawford is that actor's last name.
Clayton, right?
Clayton Crawford, I think, right?
I think he did well in the role.
I think all the
yeah.
performances in here were really
And
good.
Going back to the teenage daughter, I thought she played her scenes so well because they were so realistic of what a teen would do in those
Yeah,
situations.
no, when I was watching this, and it's
You
like,
know, we have teenagers.
oh, instead of the killing of 2 lovers, this movie should be called The Wise Wisdom of Teenagers.
Yes. Because, it's all about them, and it was just so realistic of her feeling, she and her telling her dad, "You need to fight for us," really just drove in the tension mounting, and she didn't realize she was kind of egging.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
in some ways making it worse.
Yeah, and just when she says like, "You've ruined my life."
Oh yeah, you ruined my life. Yeah.
No, people get divorced every day. It doesn't ruin their life, but not even thinking of her mom or her dad's life. It's just her life.
And he takes a minute
which
to
is
try
so
to
realistic.
And he takes a minute to try to explain it to her, but
He does. He does really well with that.
It doesn't, obviously it doesn't quite stick in that moment to her.
And she has this much more complicated role because Dad has left, or Dad hasn't left. Mom has. They've
Yeah.
separated. And Mom's with the boyfriend, and she's kind of the only one that's emotionally more distraught than the younger boys are kind of just, well, Dad's still around. He still comes over. He tells jokes. He hangs out with us. Everything's
Well, he's
fine.
become, which he's not crazy about it. Mom's definitely not crazy about it, but he's become the fun dad
Right.
because that's all he can really do.
Against his wishes.
And that's
but
what some of their fights are. No, I think so. Overall, I think I really like this movie.
I really liked it a lot.
I'm really glad we saw it. Oh, that was my kind of last point on it. I really liked it. I wish, speaking back to Greenpoint Cinema in St. Pete,
Green light.
Greenlight. I said Greenpoint, Greenlight. I'm sorry. I really liked it.
Wish we would have seen it at the cinema.
This felt like even right on. I was like, this is
It
the
would have been great.
this is the kind of
It
movie I
would
like
have
to
been
see in
great.
theaters. I know people like to see the big blockbuster films.
Yeah.
You know, your Godzillas and your
This
Tenets
would have been the
and your
perfect
Mortal
movie
Kombat.
to see at at an independent cinema.
What I like about movies like this, yeah, it's a low budget film, indie film, the different ratio, the sound where you kind of have to like hang on to the words, and typically in these most smaller theaters or older theaters like that just do like the one screen run theaters that do smaller independent films, you know, they don't, the rooms are a little more echoey, so you have to like hang on to the every sound and listen to it, and it just creates a different tension and feel. I felt this movie would have been really good in a kind of theater setting like that, in like a
Definitely.
small one screen theater with a handful of other people, and watching it. Whereas I think most people might say, "Oh, no, this is the perfect at-home movie." I go, but if it's playing in a small run theater for a week or two, that would have been perfect to see this.
And then also, one more thing about characters. We've seen so many movies that I've said lately that I've said I cannot connect with any of those characters. They don't give a good enough character portrayal. I could definitely connect with him. Like, I mean, his emotion and his acting of the character and the role and what he was trying to portray, you empathize with him, you worry about him. And the mom. I mean, it's not like you're taking side, really.
No, it's not like.
It's not like a take whose side
Like I
are
said,
you
'cause
on
this is so
kind
much-
of situation.
So much better.
deeper.
This is so much better than a movie like Marriage Story. Like
Yeah.
a gazillion times better than Marriage Story.
Yes.
But yeah, none of the characters. I think you can identify with most of the characters, if not all of them. And nobody is villainized.
No.
At all in
And I
this.
love that about it because people, well, with the woman wanting to be the one wanting out of the marriage, it would be easy. And
Well,
having the boyfriend,
early on, you think they're setting it up that way,
it's easy
but they don't.
to want to villainize her. And even the dad who has this tendency towards, has the gun and you think is going to do something irresponsible, you might want to villainize him, but you really don't. Like the way they portray the characters is great because you don't.
But it becomes, most of this film, you're watching it through the lens as a tragedy. And like I said, with a title like Killing Two Lovers and his state, yeah, like I said, you never wish her dead or her lover dead. You never, yeah, you just worry that what's gonna be the thing that makes him snap to
And
fulfill.
jeopardize his own life and his children.
And so and you think about the kids, and we even see things in the news that this kind of thing happens. So you feel like you're watching a tragedy, the whole thing, and it is building towards more and more tension. And it gets to that point of ultimate tension. Like it leads to it. It's not one of these like meandering films
Then nothing
that you're
dramatic
like, oh,
happens.
it's like, no, it's going
We're just
somewhere.
leaving the dramatic part out.
But I will say this, yeah, leave the dramatic out. Though there was, I thought, maybe end on here with this one. What I thought was a super powerful line that he says at one point, because you talked earlier about him just trying to appease her and try to do whatever it does to make it work, and without giving much away at the end. But he does utter the line eventually, like upset in tears, like, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Right.
And when he said those lines, I was like,
Yeah.
like, it summarizes everything he's been doing in this movie.
He doesn't
Shows
know
that
what to
he's
do.
just helpless.
Right.
He feels helpless, and he doesn't know what to do. And then when he verbalizes that, I just don't know what to do. I thought that was like the perfect line
For sure.
with everything else that had happened.
Right.
So that's The Killing of Two Lovers. I think it gets our recommendation.
I enjoyed it a lot.
That was a good night before.
It was really good.
So it's not the feel-good movie of the year.
It is not, but I'm not a, I love a feel-good movie, but I love just like, I don't want to say sad. I mean, there is sadness in it, obviously, but just a deep, realistic portrayal of life, like human life, human emotion, like raw human emotion in the midst of things that people go through constantly. I love that. And done well, if it's done well.
Okay.
So,
No, I agree. I think it was done really, really well. And it's something that people should check out. It's
For
not
sure.
something you're going to run across easily.
got to look it up.
So you got to look it up. You got to rent it. You got to purchase it. It's possible it might be in a theater at some point around you, but most likely not at this point.
It was like a $5 rental.
But yeah, we
something.
spent easy,
It's worth it.
easy
It's worth
$5
it.
rental. And I'm sure it might even pop up on a streaming service at some point once those rights get bought up.
Definitely.
At that point, it's a no-brainer, but... And
Spend the $5.
And like at 124 minutes long, it's not 124 minutes, an hour and 24 minutes.
Yeah, and it's done so well in that small amount of time as far as developing characters and whatnot.
All right.
All right.
Well, we're going to end part one here. So
We're gonna
those
end
of
part
you
one,
sticking
take a little
around
break.
just to hear, those of you sticking around to hear our thoughts on Some Kind of Heaven,
That'll
but
be at the beginning
that's
of
going to
part
have to
two.
be in part two. So
At some point in part 2.
yeah, I have a feeling I know where it's going to be in part two. But you'll have to jump to that episode to find out, which I think they'll be releasing right at like a day after this one. We're just going to release them back to back, close together. So stay tuned. We got to save our cheers till the end of the two-parter.
We got to save our cheers to the
And
end.
know people like that. But yeah, The Killing of Two Lovers.
Killing of Two Lovers. Loved it.
Loved it as well. And yeah,
It was
so
a
let's,
nice transition from Friday night.
yeah, let's see if we can either get a refill of coffee or if
Or our coffee shop is transitioning to brewery at this point.
it
so
might be
we'll
transitioning to
see.
brewery. Again, that's something else
It
you
is
have to
Sunday
tune in to
Funday.
part two. Will this be a weird situation where part one we were podcasting
Enjoying
from
coffee?
Alert Coffee, and then part two, sitting on the same couch in the same location, we're podcasting from Seven Sun Brewery?
That's it.
I don't know. You have to find out. Really just depends on the brewery if they're going to start pouring yet.
I don't see a bartender.
Listen, what do they say? It's 12 o'clock somewhere.
It is.
Is that the saying? I mean, it's
don't
12
know.
o'clock here.
It is 12 o'clock here.
So I don't know. I need to let them know about that phrase. Or is it 4 o'clock somewhere? How's that phrase goes?
It's based on a song. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
5 o'clock?
It's a
People-
Jimmy Buffett song.
Jimmy Buffett.
Speaking
That's a
of Jimmy
great
Buffett, what a great
segue.
segue to Some Kind of Heaven.
Some Kind of Heaven in our mystery part two discussion.
Maybe we should drink gallons of margaritas.
The parrot heads make an appearance
yes.
in-
Yes. I mean, we are in Florida. Come on.
in Some Kind of Heaven. All right, let's go. We're at our time.
All right.
See you guys at part two.
Yep.
And
See you
gals.
later. Bye.
Bye.